Here we have 4 different close-ups. We have a ×1, ×2, a ×4, and a ×10, which will allow us to get some really good depth of field shots once we get it all hooked up. I always like to go out and shoot. I have 2 lenses on the camera all times. My UV protector and an ND filter of some kind. Right now this is a ND9, so it's like a 0.9 ND filter, which really helps bring down the colors when you're going out and about. Kind of like sunglasses for your camera, more or less. But it's important to make sure they're clean. So before you go out and do anything, just check the lenses, make sure they're dust free, and if there's any smudges, you can use rubbing alcohol and a microfiber cloth to get any fingerprints or a smudge that might be on the lens. Just kind of go over it, make sure it's nice and clean. We'll check and go on your way. The hood, it really adds nicely to the shots. Really focuses in that light, kind of helps it out a bit. All right, so we're gonna go out and shoot with these filters, and we're gonna see how well they work. After walking around for a few minutes, I kind of came back to where I started, and right in front of my eyes, I didn't even know it, was something pretty cool to see. And right now you can't see it, but in front of us, there's a tiny bit of life just kind of hanging around. All right, so in this shot, we don't have any of the zoom lenses on. I'm about a foot away from the subject, maybe a little bit, a foot and a half away from the twigs here. And it's just this old tree getting ready for winter. There's maybe 1 or 2 green leaves on it left, but there is some life just hanging around. Can you see where it is? Well, if you look a little bit to the right, there's a baby snail there. Now I'm literally less than an inch away from the snail, and you can't see him because this stick right here is in focus. The camera, the Canon HG20, is set to 24 frames per second mode. It's also on MXP, which gives us a more cinematic. It's also set to cinematic with the colors. So I'm going to go ahead and roll the focus into the snail and see what it'll do. Now you can see the snail's climbing up the leaf here in the left corner. The wind's blowing a little bit. He's hanging on, enjoying himself. But I'm right up on him, and I want to bring out more detail, but I'm afraid I can't because I can't get any closer to him. Now I'm going to add the one-time lens and see what it'll look like. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning, a little mist out, and we have the one-time lens on him. This is a 37mm, 1x close-up, and the wind is blowing. I actually bumped that. Let me go ahead and slow him down. He's probably getting dizzy. But you can see here, I'm about an inch away from him, not too much further than I was before without the 1x close-up. And I'd really like to get close on him, but I don't want to zoom in. I want to avoid zooming in as much as possible. And you want to zoom in with your feet, kind of just get the camera as close as you can. Now if I do zoom in, this is what it'll look like. This shot is at half zoom, same distance as the last shot, but you can see the depth of field is so much more shallow. The leaf is pretty much in focus right up front there, and his shell's in focus, but yet his eyes, as you can see here, and that's about 6 inches away from his face actually, but his eyes aren't in focus. The back of his shell kind of is. In this shot we have the 4x close-up lens on. We're about maybe 3.5 inches away from our little guy hanging out on this leaf here, girl. Can't really tell what they are until well actually they're hermaphrodites to start off with. But anyways, you can see here we are now focused back here. I'm going to roll the focus onto our snail hanging out on a leaf. And you can see nothing's changed, but our depth of field is still really shallow. We are all the way zoomed out, but yet we're getting a now shallower depth of field with this higher close-up lens, which is really nice. That's the effect we're looking for with these extreme close-ups. We are now entirely zoomed in. The leaf, you can see, it's just gently blowing in the breeze here, but it looks really, really abrupt because we're so close. And the focus here, our depth of field, is so shallow, you can just see it here, just kind of moving along as the wind blows the leaf around. I've actually put the camera in easy mode to see how well it would pick up and focus and follow the subject here. And you can see how it's just kind of blowing around. Our guy isn't really in focus at all. Maybe just a little bit on the shell there. But I'm about 9 inches away from him, all the way zoomed in, and that's the kind of focus we get with the ×4 lens. And there he is, just kind of hanging out on the leaf there.